All right, so the first paper two question from Buddhism would be discuss the experience of meditation in Buddhism, including the differences between the experience of monks slash nuns and lay people. So the first thing that you should do, or in your response, you should show that you are aware that meditation is central, is key to the experience of being Buddhist, but there are differences in the practice of meditation by ordained and lay people. I think that you would probably be giving credit if you also recognize that in contemporary society that the practice of meditation by lay Buddhists and non-Buddhists is increasing. So meditation is central to the experience of being Buddhist because it features in the Eightfold Path it is featured in the Eightfold Path as right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. It's through meditation that the three poisons, ignorance, desire, aversion, can be eradicated from the mind, and this will lead to the end of suffering or dukkha, and it leads also to the attainment of nirvana. You should probably mention some of the following points here, and depending on your theme, um, you might have talked about this or discussed this in the rituals part of it. So there are two main forms of meditation: tranquility meditation. This is samatha, and insight meditation or vipassana. Vipassana. Both of these forms of meditation involve sitting down, your back to erect. Just like Mr. Barron, we're quiet. We're developing mindfulness. We watch the breath as it enters and leaves the nostrils, and that's one of the more common forms of meditation. Meditation can lead to states of joy and peace. Meditation is a form of mind culture through which those meditating see more clearly how desire and aversion arise in the mind. And meditation can be hard work. I think we experienced that when we were hanging out with Mr. Barron meditating, that we realized that it is hard work. It's not easy. It's not something that you can do um, one time and feel like you're an expert at it. It involves a lot of effort. It involves much discipline. All right, so what's the difference? Buddhist monks and nuns, they often have more time to practice meditation because they're on the fast track to nirvana because they have left the home and the family. And therefore they have reduced their attachments. Some monks and nuns actually live in forest monasteries to aid the practice of meditation. If you went through the typical schedule of a Buddhist monk or nun, you would have multiple meditation sessions throughout the day, every day. Um, if you're a lay Buddhist in Asia, you usually place more of an emphasis on morality and devotional practices than meditation. You do things like venerate the Buddha, you offer gifts of food to monks and nuns, you strive to follow the five precepts. Um, However, like we had mentioned before, increasingly in contemporary societies, you see lay people are also meditating, and meditation centers for lay people are present in meditation centers, excuse me, for lay people are present in both the East and the West. All right, so the next question, discuss the meaning and significance of the three marks of existence, anicca, dukkha, and anatta for Buddhists. Just a side note, just make sure that you look over the command terms. I posted those earlier in the year to the blog. It's one of the first posts, or it's in with your homework, I believe, for Hinduism. I would go over and review those command terms so you know what the expectations are for each question. For instance, students who concentrate only on the meaning or only on the significance, um, you you'd be limited in the amount of marks you would get in paper number two. So let's look at both. So the meaning, anika literally means impermanence. Remember, everything in samsara is impermanent. It rises and falls according to the law of dependent origination. The law of dependent origination is or it was I guess you can say personified in that the outer ring, excuse me, or realm of the wheel of life. Dukkha We've talked about how this is a pretty difficult term to translate, but it's usually translated to suffering, unsatisfactoriness. We think about this and think about this in terms of there's something unsatisfactory at the heart of existence that is linked to impermanence. We are born only to grow old and die. We lose those who we love. Every pleasure ends. These are just things that cause more unsatisfactoriness or suffering in our life. The last mark of existence, anatta, is usually translated as non-self. It means that everything in the human person is impermanent. No unchanging soul or self can be identified. There is no permanent I within the human person to cling to or promote. So just think about how I think we used a couple of analogies here, but just I would think about like how as you grow older, the physical form changes, your mental formations change, your perceptions change, your sense perceptions change, everything changes. So there's nothing that you can point to and say this is me. All right, no, you're made up of a bunch of different parts. It's always changing. Things happen or things have contributed to how you think or why you think the choices that you make. The significance to the three marks of existence. You probably should show that you're aware that both these three marks of existence lie at the core of the Buddhist view of life within samsara, and that you need to understand them if you're going to reach enlightenment or nirvana. So, for instance, an understanding of anicca helps a person to reduce cravings such as possessions, power, status. If things don't last, there's really no point in craving for them. There's no point in that tanha. An understanding of dukkha helps a person see that if there is a problem with human existence, or excuse me, that there is a problem with human existence, and you need to pursue the Buddhist path or the middle way diligently. Some people might point out that dukkha is the first of the Four Noble Truths, and that it is a truth that must be understood if the Eightfold Path is to be followed. An understanding of anatta also helps a person to eradicate or get rid of craving. If there's no permanent self and there's no I, so to speak, then there is no need to act selfishly. If you can do this or understand this, you're free to act compassionately for the good of others, without relating anything or everything to the self. All right, so the third question: examine the relevance of the five precepts for the contemporary world. First of all, you should demonstrate that you're aware that the five precepts are voluntarily undertaken, and they're usually moral guidelines for lay people, and you should be able to itemize them, list them out. So just in case, there are the undertaken not to harm any living being, usually understood as not killing. The undertaken not to take what is not given. The undertaken not to misuse sense pleasures, usually understood to mean sexual misconduct. The undertaken not to use false speech, and the undertaken not to take anything that clouds the mind, usually understood as the avoidance of drugs and alcohol. And so when you're examining the relevance of the five precepts to the contemporary world, you could/should make some of the following points, drawing on the experience of the world and your social concerns. So number one, the five precepts help people on the path to enlightenment, but they also help to create a harmonious society. Each of the five precepts has relevance to the harmony and peacefulness of society, and that these could all contribute to the lessening of negative practices in contemporary society. The first precept itself, this is something that we examined in our theme 5. It prevents people from carrying out murder, assault, or any other form of violent attacks on other human beings. It could also include the avoidance of cruelty to animals. Gun or knife crime, gang warfare, and the abandonment of animals would be lessened if people would follow the first precept. The second precept prevents people from stealing from or oppressing others by taking what has not been given to them. Break-ins, pickpocketing crime, and shoplifting would be lessened. The third precept would lessen sexual assault and harassment, rape, and the trafficking of women. It would mean that women could walk without fear or of attack. The fourth precept would create a society in which people could trust each other because the truth would be spoken. For instance, we would be able to trust advertisements. Parents would be able to trust their children, and children would be able to trust their parents. Teachers would be able to trust their students. Students would be able to trust their teachers. The fifth and last precept would lessen alcohol and drug abuse. There would be less binge drinking and drug trafficking. Traffickers would not be able to find as many buyers. People in society would have better health overall. You could possibly disagree that the five precepts are relevant to the contemporary world. If you would disagreed or you want to go the other way, you would include secular values, personal choice, consumer values. This all affects both the Buddhist and the non-Buddhist societies. All right, the fourth question here, examine the meaning and importance of the principle of karma within Buddhist ethics. You should probably, include in there that you're aware that the principle of karma is that every moral action has a consequence or a fruit. Good action produces good fruit. Bad or unwholesome action produces bad fruit. You could be given credit if you know that the word karma comes from the word for action. You could be given credit if you know that the Buddha stressed that intention was karma or action. If one intends to harm someone, then the intention produces a fruit. Buddhists see the principle of karma as a natural law that is present throughout samsara. In reference to Buddhist ethics are, underpinned by the principle of karma. You could outline that most important ethical principles in Buddhism, or you could outline the most important ethical principles in Buddhism, like the five precepts, the ethical components of the Eightfold Path. You should be given credit if you mention those. You should also try to make some of the following points as well, though. That the principle of karma teaches us that what harms other also harms the self. Harming others will result in negative consequences for the one who harms, who does the harming. This means that benefit to the self and benefit to others, and harm of self and harm of others cannot be separated within Buddhist ethics. What benefits others benefits self. Don't make the mistake of saying that this would make Buddhist ethics appear selfish. Remember, if a Buddhist does what is good purely to benefit the self and not out of loving kindness towards others, then this motivation will also bring negative consequences. You don't do what is good for the outcome. You do what is good because it's right. You do you could make the mention that Buddhists believe that they make merit or they earn merit when they do what is good, and that this merit will help them gain a better rebirth through the cycle of samsara. This whole belief of merit is rooted in karma.